Namaste. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Louisa. Wherever you are in this world, today I want to share, I think, some fascinating encounters that I've been having with star beings. And I'm sharing these because I think it's really important at this time on our planet that each of us begin to acknowledge the presence of these star beings that have been assisting us for a long, long time, of which we are a part. And if this hasn't already been happening to you, then it's an invitation to open up and I guess be ready and willing to receive these kinds of experiences, because I'm not having these encounters because I'm some special strange person. I'm having them because this is becoming a normal part of our consciousness as humanity wakes up out of its long, long slumber and remembers who we are. So this remembering also entails a reconnection with star families, and I have, probably for the last 3 years, been having a lot of communication with different groups of star beings, different groups of families. It's kind of like a very fascinating puzzle that I put together. One encounter will be, 1 month, and then a few months later I'll have another encounter, and I realize that they're from the same family, and I'll begin to get a sense of the different styles and energies and information that different groups are bringing through. So you won't have just one star family that you're communicating with. You're probably connected to quite a number of them, because all of these lives in the higher dimensions are quantum. So they're all happening at the same time, right? You could call them past lives or future lives. There's also, from a third dimensional perspective, that sense of linear time playing out. Sometimes it's past, sometimes it's future. I've heard some people teach that our higher selves are our future selves that are coming back down this timeline to assist us right now. So anyway, it all gets a bit confusing, but that part I'm not 100% sure. I haven't received that much information from my guides on that, but they do give me a lot of information. That knowledge is really important at this time, because what we've been taught in our external world, through our textbooks, our education system, our parents, our society, unless we were living in a I guess an indigenous culture where the people are still connected both to the earth wisdom and also to the star wisdom, then most of us are going to have lost that knowing. I'm joined by the kookaburras today. They're having a party in the trees. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you today about my Andromedan family. So I first encountered these beings about 3 years ago when it was a shamanic journey to meet 12 aspects of myself. Sort of imagine it in a circle, like 12 segments, 12 higher aspects. And every journey I would take would be to visit an individual aspect. It's a very powerful form of inviting connection to your higher self. And I recall that, I think it was one of the second last aspects that I was meeting. I met this, I found myself in a kind of a beautiful hall, a very opulent, high-ceilinged hall, a place of light and very high frequency. And the being that I met was a very tall, extremely tall, and long-limbed, thin being, which was grey. And the skin was not, there's this concept of the grey aliens with the very smooth skin, and they're quite short beings. This wasn't like that at all. This being had very distinctive skin, which was kind of wrinkly, like lots and lots of folds of skin, sort of like, the wrinkles around an elephant's knees and joints, that kind of wrinkly skin. So this covers their whole body. It's a fine wrinkle, and the skin is really, really, really soft and beautiful. And they have this very round head, so a long, thin body and a round head, and these very sweet features like little eyes, a little nose, and a little mouth. They look gentle and loving, and that was my first impression of them, although very tall. So when I was working with this wheel of 12 aspects, every time I encountered a being and I did a journey, I would request for it to show me its true nature. It's a way of protecting yourself when you're doing shamanic journeys, because there can be a lot of deception in the astral, and beings that are trying to interfere with our experiences and may not have our best interests at heart. So I always follow this practice of show me your true nature and show it to me now, right? And I click, that's what I do. And it's a way of resetting my mind to clear all deception and distortion and to see the truth. And when I did that, this being transformed into this beautiful sphere of rainbow-coloured light, right? Beautiful rainbow-coloured light. So I knew that the beings, when being asked to show their true nature, are actually at an even higher dimension than their physical form. They are a sphere of rainbow-coloured light, which tells me a lot about the high frequency from which they come from, right? So I was assured. Anyway, fast forward to, I don't know how long, but probably at least a year or two, and I was meditating one day. I kind of forgot about the grey beings, but I was meditating one day, and I found myself becoming aware of this other alternate reality that I was conscious of, in which I was lying in a crystal pod, kind of like a bath, but made of a rose quartz crystal, and I appeared to be kind of floating in the bath. So I wasn't lying on anything, I was floating, but I was very relaxed and it felt really safe and nice. And around the bath were these grey beings coming to say hello. They were my family, and I got a sense of I don't know, half a dozen of them, and they were exuding love. The most distinctive thing about them is that they love to touch. So this skin, I discovered, was actually a method of communication for them, because in the pod they would hold my hand and touch me a lot, and that was transferring messages and information, not in an English type of language, it's telepathic communication, messages of reassurance. And it was really beautiful, really reconnecting. And I knew, I think it was that journey or maybe another one, because they visited me several times in these pods. I became aware that I was actually one of them. So I was lying, I am lying in this pod, and I am a grey being, and I have the same skin. And in one of my journeys, I decided to look more closely at my body, and I saw that I had 3 long fingers, and all the beings have these fingers. And from memory, I was wearing some kind of jewelry on each wrist, and different colours, and it had something to do with balancing the chakra system. Unfortunately, I've looked back in my shamanic journals and I cannot find a record of that, so I'll just have to take that from memory, that they was wearing something. But the rest of my body was completely naked, and I looked down at myself and I saw that I was a female, and I remember in that moment, as I was like exploring my body with my vision, I kind of panicked a bit and I went, oh gosh, okay, do I have to have sex up here? That was what I asked the beings. Do I have to have sex up here? Bearing in mind that this body, this person, this avatar here in physical form, like so many of us on the planet, we've experienced sexual trauma, right? So we can be quite afraid or resistant of sexuality and sexual encounters. So that was my instinctive, feeling, and they were just beautiful about it. They kind of laughed, but in a compassionate way, and they said that yes, the beings do have sex up in this realm, but it's only if you want to. That's really what they were reassuring me, that it's a sacred act, and yeah, it's the same understanding that we have down here on the planet about tantra and the power of tantric sex. So that was reassuring. In another encounter, again, I don't know if it was the same time, or I visited them several times in these pods. I asked if I could look around. So I sat up in the pod and I saw that I was in this vast cavernous room, also pink, almost a larger fractal of the pod that I was sitting in. It was domed and felt very feminine and safe, sacred space. And then there was a sea of other pods. So there was all these other beings who were also in pods and being visited by their star family. I didn't look too closely at those beings. I'm feeling as if it's all the same star beings in these pods, so all these grey beings. And I also became aware in that journey, because I went for a little walk. I got up out of the pod and there's these 3 little steps that you can walk down onto the ground, and my family took me, they were showing me around, and I realised I was on some sort of a ship, because I came out on a kind of a viewing deck, and I could see out into space. I also had the sense that on the ship there were many different beings. There weren't just us, there were other beings, and I remember at that point it got a little bit hectic. I was like, oh, this is a bit much for my mind to comprehend and take in, that I'm on the ship. So as soon as the feeling of fear or constriction came over me, they took me back into the pod. So they're very protective of my energy and how I'm integrating and assimilating the information that they give me. Okay, so that was a nice experience, and then I did a quantum hypnosis therapy session with a beautiful practitioner. Now this would be about a year ago, and I asked about these beings. I said, who are they and where are they from? I wanted information from my subconscious or my higher self. And the information that came through during that session was that they were from Andromeda, 7th dimension. Okay, so that was interesting as well, because I didn't, up until that point, have a strong kind of affiliation with the star system of Andromeda. I had been making a number of connections with Lyrans, Arcturians, and a group of beings that call themselves the Elohim, who I'm not exactly sure. I feel like they are like the ultimate creator beings, that they're not affiliated with a particular star system, but I could be wrong. I don't know. It's like I said, it's like a puzzle that we're putting together. So anyway, so the Andromedan beings that just weren't kind of on my radar. So I was surprised that they were from Andromeda. It's like, okay, that's cool. And then again, I kind of forgot about them. Forgot about them for a long time, actually. I hadn't really connected with them for, I don't know, nearly a year. And then recently I had an amazing experience, which I guess called me to share this video. And that is that a girlfriend of mine gave me a beautiful gift, which was to go into a flotation pod, a flotation pod, where you lie in the water, and it's got like 500 kilograms of Epsom salt in the water, so it lifts your body up and you can just float there, and it's like, it's so nice. So okay, so I'm going to do this thing, and it was funny because at the time I was having a bit of an emotional meltdown, and I asked the man who was running the pod thing, could he give me a guided meditation CD, because I didn't want to think, I didn't want to be left with my own thoughts. And I just wanted someone else to, talk me through the relaxation, breathing, all that stuff. But he mucked up the CDs, and he gave me a different one, which was actually like about 5 minutes of music and then silence for a whole hour. And so I'm lying in the pod, and I realised that he hadn't got the CDs right after about 5 minutes. And I got out. I pressed the emergency button, because that's what he said to do if something was wrong. Got out, waited for him, he didn't come. And then I thought, oh well, I'll just go with it. I'll just go with the silence. It's obviously meant to be. So I got back in the pod, lying in the silence. And I'm so glad that he messed up those CDs. Everything has a reason, because it left me alone with my thoughts for an hour, and I'm lying in a pod. So very quickly what happened was I connected in with my Andromedan family again. that the memory was activated by lying in this pod and and floating. So this time, with all this time up my sleeve, I decided to really, really talk to them. I wanted to know a lot more about them and what was going on here. So I had a fascinating chat with my Andromedan family, and I learned some things which I wanted to share with you today, which I think I'd be interested to hear if anyone else has had these experiences. So I asked them, what's going on here with this lying in the pod business? What is that? Why? And they explained to me that this avatar is, as I said before, connected to a lot of different star families, a lot of different, let's just call them aspects of self, because we have aspects of self, fractals of ourself, our consciousness, in all dimensions, in all planets, in all lives, past, present, future, right? It's like we are beams of light in many directions. And many of those aspects are operating parallel life to ours. So, for example, I've had one connection with an aspect of myself that is working on one of the motherships in the Earth's stratosphere. That's what I get when I ask about that experience from my guides. And I see myself running around on that ship, really, really busy. I'm helping with Operation Save Humanity, right? Maybe I'm part of the Galactic Federation. I don't really know, but I do see myself really busy, and I'm connected with that consciousness. But she is also running her life. She's doing her thing, and that seems to be true of most of the connections I make, except for this one. So what they were saying is that most of the time these fractals are existing in and doing other things. But in the case of my Andromedan family, as part of their service to humanity, what they've chosen to do is, or what we've chosen to do, what I've chosen to do, is lie in complete stasis, right? So stillness in the pod, in order to merge consciousness with this avatar. So it allows for a deeper connection, a complete connection, I want to say, right? It's like by being in complete stasis like this, they can tune in and almost sort of overlay their dimension with this dimension, and it's like two pieces of a puzzle connecting, clicking into place by lying completely still. So it's physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. It's all of those levels clicking into place with this avatar, and therefore being of service. So I get the feeling that it's a two-way service in a sense, because I'm serving them as well. Louisa, this avatar, is serving them by uploading literally a whole lot of information from this earthly experience into their realm. Okay, they're kind of coming through a bit now and explaining that they don't have that agenda, however. Like, that agenda is a very minuscule part of why they're doing this. They're not, it's not like they're scientists studying us. That's not the point. What they're doing, they're showing me like a channel of light, a channel of love that is enacted or enabled through this stasis, this being in stasis that can fully connect with this body and this mind and this field, right? Their agenda, if you want to call it that, is pure love. That's all they are offering in service to humanity, is their love. So it is interesting when I tune into these beings, they don't offer me advice. They don't talk to me like blah, 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 blah. Not like the Acturians that are very chatty. The Acturians have got loads of advice. They're always coaching me about this and that. So are the Elohim. It's a more of a mental influence on the mental plane, on the rationale, reason and logic, right? And a coaching on how to integrate the heart and the mind. But these Andromedan beings, they don't coach, they don't really say anything. They just transmit love. and I can feel that love whenever I'm with them. And mainly they transmit it through touch, but it's there anyway. It's just their presence. So okay, so that's what they're there to do. Now, when I was talking to them about this, I was a bit worried. I'm like, gosh, that's a big service to basically sacrifice, your whole life just to lie in a pod, just to help this being here on this planet. And I said, how long do you lie in the pods for? Like thinking, my whole lifetime? And they sort of laughed a little, and they explained that, yes, it is a sacrifice and a service for them, but they wanted to give me a context for that. And they said that that this being will lie in this pod my entire life. But let's say my entire life is 100 years. That's only 1 year of this being's life. And this being will live 1,000 years. So it's 1/1000th sacrifice for this being to be completely still. And even then, that's not how they see it. They don't see it as a sacrifice. They see it as an experience and a service. So yeah, just to give some context, I found that really interesting too. Cool. Was there anything else? And I suppose the other thing worth noticing about them is that you'll hear I say them a lot and talk of them as a collective, because every time I try to put into human language what's happening up there, I want to use the word she or I am lying in the pod, but it doesn't feel quite right. And I think it's really important for you to understand that these guys have what's called a social memory complex. If you look at the law of one material, they talk about this as the beings raised in dimensions. The social memory complex is that they share a mind, essentially. They share a heart. And it's not a hive mind, they are individuals within that, and it's very, very loving, but it is certainly shared. So what this being in the pod is going through, me in the pod, is a shared experience. They're all holding that, they're all feeling that, this information is, not like the way in our human world where what we experience, sometimes it feels kind of lonely because it's just our little world, and we try to reach out and we try to share it, but with very limited success. That's changing as we become more telepathic. We are gradually moving as a species to a social memory complex where we will share a lot more, and that's starting to happen, and I can see it and feel it, but we're a long way off what these beings are experiencing. So I thought that was worth mentioning as well. Cool. Well, that's a bit of fascinating information from our Andromedan 7th dimension being friends. And I might add that if you're drawn to listen to this video and you've really resonated with it, then there's every chance that these beings are also your family. I would also be so interested if anyone has seen similar beings or had similar experiences with this type of looking being with this grey skin and using touch and all the little details that they've shared with me already. I'd be fascinated to hear from you if you've had similar experiences. So post in the comments below or email me if you like. I'd love to hear from you. Yeah, so cool. Well, that's my Andromedan experience. I'll be back again soon. I might start sharing a little bit more of the other information I've been getting from the other star families. I think now's the time to really kind of come out and let everyone know what we're going through and what we're learning, because it's fascinating. Cool. Okay. I love you all heaps. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Namaste.